Welcome to The Logic of It All, a conversation on Christianity's search for a reformation with your host, Reverend Gary Essex Sprunger. Hello, nice of you to sit in. We're in conversation because religion is in decline. According to polls, 40 to 80% worldwide say they have no faith. In the United States, those who claim to be Christian, some 85%, no longer participate in organized worship. At this time of weakness, Christianity and its morality is under attack by the non-religious. In some places in the world, Christians are being persecuted. We'll be looking at the situation as boldly as we can. And as we talk, please know, we are not here to change those of devout faith. No, never that. Rather, our purpose is to reach the 85% who are discouraged about their faith, and possibly, hopefully, those who have no faith at all. This is why we're here in this conversational time titled The Logic of It All. So, where do we begin? When religious thought began? Before words were printed? Some say that's when we changed from being wandering hunter-gatherers to developing agriculture for food and living in societies with time to develop abstract thinking. That would be around 4,000 to 15,000 years ago. There are cave-walled paintings that have been dated back 35,600 years depicting a bull in northern Spain, and in Indonesia a boar dated 45,500 years ago. Is this the evidence we need from the earliest cave drawings to know the beginnings of abstract thinking? Perhaps the time when religious thoughts began is not as important as understanding that whenever it began, human knowledge was limited to myths, legends, superstitions, and belief in mythological gods. And this I cannot keep repeating, as it will drive us both crazy. So let's just use ancient thought, ancients or ancient reasoning, knowing that it stands for myths, legends, superstitions, and belief in mythological gods. Ancient thought. Because all the world's major religions began with the thinking and pondering of their ancients, you and I will concentrate on Christianity, since that's the one I'm most familiar with through childhood, schooling, and studies. So as we approach Christianity with new thought, it might be best to start in the beginning. That's how it's stated in the book of Genesis. Quote, God created the heavens and the earth. That is how it's printed. Now let's consider the wonderings before print. Have you ever stood at the shore or an open field in the dark and felt in awe of all the stars out there? Imagine having the ancients' limited knowledge. It would be right out there, stars, some brighter than others. And over time they remembered a pattern of repetition, which helped hunter-gatherers, Neanderthals in Scotland, avoid starvation by giving them the means to establish a calendar of sorts that helped them track the migratory seasons of the animals they hunted, their food source. This crude keeping track of time by following the cycle of the moon from full and back to full became a lunar month, and the sun's returning to a given position became a year. The Babylonians refined the calendar further, noting the moon takes 7 days to go through each phase. The ancients knew a week and reasoned that's how long it took God to take all the steps creating everything they saw, as it all fit into a week's time. Sky, light, dark, water, vegetation, birds and animals, people. And that it was made just for them, where they stood, looking out at it all. This was the center of it all, the universe. The order of creation in those first 25 verses can be argued about, but the main thought to come away with is our ancients concluded It was the work of one God. That is the significant point of this Genesis story. But then we come to verse 26, which states, "Then God said, let us make man in our image, in our likeness." Who is us? And who is our? We were led to believe for 25 verses that it was the work of one God, not a team. But in the next verse, 27, we get back on the one God track. When God created man in his own image, in the image of God, he created him, male and female, he created them. That was on the 6th day, and on the 7th, God rested. So far in creation, everything, including humans, has been created out of nothing. Then in the 2nd chapter, we get another description of how God created Adam and Eve. It was described as a time when there were no shrubs or plants, no rain, but water came up out of the earth, covered the whole surface with water. But evidently not all was watery, because there was dirt available to be scooped up by God, to form man, breathe life into his nostrils, so man could become a living being. Now it just so happened that God had planted a garden to the east, in Eden, where trees were lovely and fruitful and watered by a river that split into 4 others. And God just took that man over there and placed him in the garden, commanding him to take care of it all. Later, God noted that man had no suitable helper in tending to the garden, so God put the man into a deep sleep and extracted one rib, closed up the womb with flesh, took that rib and made a woman out of it. Now we have 3 different versions of how humanity came into being. First, God made man and woman out of nothing. Second, God made man out of dust. And third, woman was made out of a rib. To help us grasp all this, biblical scholars concluded 3 different legends from neighboring countries were woven into one story by our ancients. So we have to take the story of Adam and Eve as just a compilation of stories and admire the important reasoning of the ancients, and that is, God did it all. There are those who say creation, humanity just happened. God had nothing to do with it. And some say if you can't believe part of biblical scripture, you can't believe any of it. It doesn't fit the science we know. Is that one of the reasons why some are lukewarm about their faith? You've heard about the Big Bang Theory, that the universe began with an explosion at one place, and that has been precisely measured moving away from that beginning point for some 13.8 billion years, done with precision. And now new theories, as well as the recent knowledge of black holes, are putting the age of the universe as much older than 13.8 billion years, possibly older than 26 billion years, maybe twice as old as we've been believing. Will this affect the age of our Milky Way, considered over 13 billion years old? On one of the minor spirals of the Milky Way galaxy, there is Earth. Minor spiral, Earth, calculated to be about 4.5 billion years old. A far cry from a week's work. And we are certainly not the center of the universe. This couldn't have been imagined by our ancients at all. Or what we are trying to grasp now, that there are from 100 to 400 billion stars in our Milky Way galaxy, and that astronomers have counted over 3,000 of those stars having a solar system. And if smoke isn't coming out of your ears yet, take this in. Thanks to our space telescopes, it's now estimated to be a universe filled with over 2 trillion galaxies. Not all are like our spiral galaxy, the Milky Way, and believe capable of supporting life forms, but even so, 2 trillion galaxies, and each possibly having hundreds of billions of stars. Sorry for all the mind-numbing numbers, but it's important to know when, like our ancients, pondering about the moon and sun, we are now pondering about other life forms, aliens in the universe, knowing that Earth is young by comparison, and that there are galaxies and solar systems out there that could have life forms that are millions of years older than we are. And look how far we have come in a mere 600 million years. Earth is believed 4.6 billion years old. Life forms beginning 600 million years ago. What went on during those billions of years on Earth before we began? Well, let me put it this way. A heck of a lot went on, and that it was purposeful, designed, timed, in a way that can only be described as with unbelievable precision, which does not come out of chaos. The more we learn, the universe is like a complex machine, if you will, with all the trillions of galaxies and stars and black holes interrelated, orbiting and holding itself together with balanced gravitational force. For anyone serious enough to claim they believe it all just happened, I recommend a book by Hugh Ross, Improbable Planet, published by Baker Books. This is a most comprehensive book. I'll get it right there. This is the most comprehensive book on the universe and how Earth became humanity's home. Not an easy read. It's for the serious who have a good knowledge of chemistry and physics. I'm not planning on recommending any other books during our conversations, but this one brings to light the precision of creation, which can only have been done by an intelligence beyond our human comprehension. Just let me say about those billions of years before us, that Earth was bombarded at different times for hundreds of millions of years on end at a time by asteroids and comets that have given us all we need for life, from bacteria to animals and humans. We were bombarded with all the minerals and chemicals needed for the air we breathe, the water for vegetation and animal life. What an awesome series of events. And from this book, Improbable Planet, you will know why we have shifting tectonic plates, earthquakes, volcanoes, hurricanes, and tornadoes, all those natural events you've heard people say, how could God let this happen? After reading Improbable Planet by Hugh Ross, you will know why Earth isn't an icy ball with no vegetation or animals or humans, and quite convincingly that the universe and all it contains did not just happen. It was planned, each step, with incredible precision, with all the laws of science in place before it all began, with consistent accuracy, which allows us to fly to other planets and asteroids, land on the moon, and return. Accuracy in the universe makes it possible to go out into it and return safely. Without that consistent accuracy, we would be earthbound. The writings, scriptures of the Christian faith do not go into the scientific evidence of an intelligence creating the universe, just that God did it, described in what amounts to be legends and stories told and then written by our ancients, which make God out to be like some cosmic magician. We need, logically, to amend our grasp on the legends so we can more fully appreciate the accomplishment of the Creator. We are not, as our scriptures portray us, the center of the universe. We are in the universe about as significantly as a neutron in an atom of 1 grain of sand on Earth. That's pretty small in the universe. Now, what do we do about the Adam and Eve story? How do we reconcile the scientific evidence of life's beginning with the stories in Genesis? Evolution, sin, death, heaven, all will have to wait until another time. Remember, one step at a time, which is something we are running out of, and the coffee's cold. Until that time, when I hope we can get together again, have a great rest of your day and sunshine tomorrow. You have been in conversation reviewing Judeo-Christian scripture with scientific knowledge to begin the foundation for Christianity's Reformation. Your joining in is appreciated, and you are invited to follow for much, much more of the logic of it all.